Hi, folks. I'm Jimmy Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
I'm Derek, the man. That's all I got.
That's
And this is Screen Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and Derek is the man, apparently.
So I roll.
How are you guys doing today?
Oh man, I am feeling rough today. I think I'm coming down with a cold, so I'm trying to get through this. How are you guys feeling?
I am pretty good. Had a good day, I guess. Watched football, edited last week's episode. Good to go. How about you, Derek? How are you feeling?
Well, I'm okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you called yourself the man. I thought you were doing great.
No.
No.
I did manage to run out of gas on the
Ooh,
highway.
that's a bad
This-
day.
Guys, this
It was
is not a
nice.
surprise. This is not a surprise. Derek plays a dangerous game. He looks at his gas gauge. It says he has, let's say, 13 miles. And he'll say, I can probably drive 20 miles on that.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the issue. I got a new truck, right? So I haven't really fully filled it out yet. You know what I mean? I don't know what its limitations
Yeah.
are. Now
You know
I
what my
know-
limitation is? When it says I
Exactly.
have 10 miles, I've already gotten gas, so it doesn't get that low.
Well, now I know that when it says 18, it means you better get gas right now, because if not, I'm going to strand you on the side of the road.
Dude.
Yep.
Dangerous
I had to give her a pep talk to let her know that it wasn't her fault. It was my fault.
That's good. After last week's episode, it's important to speak nice to your cars, but don't be overly nice to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they might try to possess you and kill people.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
My car is actually dangerously low right now. It happens.
Gotta do it. You gotta do
Derek,
it.
did we ever name your truck? Did you ever name it?
Oh yeah. I did.
I forget if we talked about
Black
it.
Beauty.
Black Beauty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a black truck, pickup truck, and it looks beautiful. So
Yeah.
I called her Black Beauty.
Very
And
nice.
actually, it has built-in Wi-Fi. So
That's insane.
the Wi-Fi name is Black Beauty.
Nice. Jamie, does your car
Interesting.
have a name?
My current car, I'm trying to remember what I ended up naming her. I don't recall. My old car did. My
Yeah.
old car's name was Troy. Because it had I had a CD player in it.
Okay.
And it would say track 1, track 2, track 3, TR1, TR2. And so it was on TR4 and it was like Troy. So I was like, that's your name, Troy.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I always used to name my cars after like this first song that would play on the radio, like
Ooh.
when I would get in it. So like my first car's name was Caroline because Sweet Caroline came on.
That's nice.
That's actually
like-
pretty cool.
My car,
Yeah.
I think, it's the song songs I played the most. So it's gonna be John Carpenter's Halloween. Is the name of
Yeah.
my car.
Oh, that's a
'Cause I
terrible
listened
name
to-
for a car.
I listened to.
So-
It's a beautiful name for anything.
I've got to ask, like,
Carpenter's Halloween.
if Boats and Hose came on in your car for the first song, what would you call it? Bodie Ho?
Bodie, maybe? I don't know. Maybe
call
like
Bodie.
maybe
call her
name it
Bodie
after
Ho.
one of the writers or something, like I would
Yeah.
come up with something that I'm happy with either way. But
John C.
I-
Riley.
our new car I named Tippy after Tippi Hedren because she's
Oh, that's a
black
good
and
one.
spooky and gives me the Alfred Hitchcock vibes a little bit,
Mm.
But
That's
and then I
good.
realized Tippy is a horrible name for a car.
Hey, there's no horrible names. John Carpenter's Halloween has got me through a lot of stuff.
It's like if I ever tip that car over, I'm gonna really regret that name,
Like, that was a bad omen.
Yeah.
At least you didn't call it Crashy McDUI.
That's what they should have called Christine.
That is.
The next car I get, I'm gonna get a screenshot from Drag Me to Hell of the goat, and I'm gonna call her Bad Bitch.
That license plate would be incredible.
Oh my
You
God!
should.
Now I've
Yes.
got the next license plate.
You need to get that.
Bad bitch, dude. I'll never forget when you said it. I don't know if I can find it, but if I can,
You
I'm gonna
black-hearted
write.
whore.
That's what it
It
was.
was.
Black-hearted whore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Oh shoot.
All right. I don't have a lot of news today, but you know what? I have some. So let's get into the horror news. The first bit is a bit of sad news, actually. Ted White, who, of course, played Jason in Friday the 13th 4, the final chapter, has passed away recently. He was 96 years old.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, had a great run. He was a stuntman. He worked on from everything from Creature of the Black Lagoon, Giant, Rio Bravo, Planet of the Apes, the 70s King Kong, Escape from New York, Roadhouse, the original Gone in 60 Seconds, and he appeared in Tron, Romancing the Stone, Starman, The Hidden, and The X-Files.
Wow. I'm watching the X-Files right now.
So he's got a
Weird.
great life. Great life.
Yes, that's
What
that's
is-
amazing to hear. I mean, it's so like heartbreaking to hear someone has passed away, but at 96 you kind of it's like a you kind of
Respect.
it's
Yeah.
so much easier to accept that they had like a full and wonderful life,
Yeah.
No. That guy didn't have a full life. He had like 12 full life.
Right.
Just the random person who goes to work every day and then just dies, and then you have some guy that literally like was in some of the greatest movies ever made,
Yeah.
and like bunches of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Also, one of my favorite Jasons, Ted White is. Might be my favorite Jason. Part 4 is, I think, like the quintessential Jason, right?
That's where Tommy comes back into the picture, right?
That's where Tommy is first introduced, Corey Feldman.
Oh yeah.
So,
Amazing.
respect, Ted White.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
So, this is news to me. I found this out just today, but they are remaking the 1980 slasher movie Terror Train that starred Jamie Lee Curtis. Tubi has announced that apparently it's premiering on October 21st as part of the platform's annual month-long Halloween genre celebration, Terror on Tubi. So, it's a Canadian film, just like the original. It is written by Ian Carpenter, no relation to the great John, and Aaron Martin, and directed by Felipe Gagnon. Did you guys ever see Terror Train?
Oh, I think I've seen like bits and pieces.
I don't recall ever seeing it now.
It's a fun one. We'll do it. We have. I mean, of course, we're gonna hit it. It's part of the 80s slasher genre, and we're gonna hit every 80s slasher eventually.
Mhm.
And it stars Jamie Lee Curtis. It's a on her run of the Scream Queen. It's an interesting movie. I always thought that it would be ripe for a remake, so I'm kind of excited to check that out because the last time I watched it, which was like earlier in this year, it was on like Shudder or something. Last time I watched it, I was like, this is prime for a remake. They could really. It's because it's a cool concept. They're on a train. There's a killer that's changing masks, and killing people on the train. It's a good concept. And you
Love
could
it.
totally update that. So,
Yeah.
First
I feel
off,
like they've been coming up with a lot of train movies lately.
well,
yeah,
like Throw
train-
Mama from the Train.
that was an older one, but that's a great one.
Trains are in the spotlight once again.
Yep.
But real quick, a shout out to Tubi. It is like my favorite video app right now because it's got all like the old stuff, man. All
It
of
does.
the TV shows. My son Clark he reenacts complete segments of Scooby-Doo. It's amazing. I love it.
Nice. Shout out.
I like Tubi.
Sponsor.
Yeah. Sponsor us, Tubi.
Something,
To be
you know.
or not to be.
Oh my gosh.
I would say hook us up with some free a free platform, but they already have that. That's what they are. So guys, Adam Green's latest Halloween short is out. It is called Halloween Costume Cruelty. It's a short one. It's about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes long. I watched it the other day, and it's hilarious. It's about a kid that basically it's a public service announcement for too many children face every Halloween, which is their parents buy them shitty costumes of great characters.
That's awesome.
So we've got to check that out.
I was just thinking about that today.
It's a great concept. So this little kid's walking around with a super shitty Victor Crowley costume.
Nice.
So I thought that was fun.
And if you haven't checked it out, watch their Jack Chop.
Jack Chop is special
segment. It's amazing.
Yes, it is. I
turned that on at Quincy's parents' house, right? And Clark was like running around, and as soon as it started coming on, I mean, it's vulgar as can be. Like we're like trying to scramble to turn it off because like I'll watch that later.
Yeah, it's a very funny one. Very funny one.
Yeah.
And anything that Adam does, I'll definitely support. Can't wait for him to do something new. Perhaps Hatchet 5. I'd be down.
Oh my gosh.
Just saying. So this is a interesting bit of news. It's not really news, but it is. Heather Langenkamp was at the Halloween Ends premiere. So she was interviewed talking about it, and she said they asked her if she would like to fight Freddy one last time. And she said, if Nancy could fight Freddy one last time, I would really like that. Gosh, I would love to see a future in that. I've been watching the Halloween saga that's been out, and I've loved watching Jamie Lee Curtis get to play that part. This age where I think we can have so much to give to these storylines, I wish I was in control of that. But it's one of those Hollywood very complicated things. What do you guys think about Halloween 2018-ifying Nightmare on Elm Street with an older Nancy?
As long as they can get back Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Make it happen.
It'd have to be with Robert Englund.
Yeah.
And it'd have to be a great director as well.
Yeah, unfortunately it can't be Wes.
Yeah.
So you just pull John Carpenter in to do it.
Something.
That'd be pretty cool. Whatever. I think Jamie and I were on the case, man. We were trying to crack a new Freddy movie.
Yeah, I mean we had a good pitch. I have a spec script.
A good pitch. No. He's totally underselling this. It's a wonderful, amazing pitch.
It's a solid pitch.
Yeah.
Now I would change that pitch to be Nancy's return, because that would be great.
We could weave her into that story.
Weave her right in. Because, I mean, here's the thing.
I think she was in it.
Yes. Our original pitch followed the original Elm Street timeline.
Yeah.
And so it just depends on where you put it. So, I'm just hoping to see a new good Freddy movie sometime soon. I'm looking to see a new good Nightmare on Elm Street movie sometime soon.
And I'm looking to see a new...
what?
How long's it been since they've done a Freddy movie?
Oh, 2010. It's been like 12 years. Yeah. I'm hoping that they do a new good Halloween movie.
They're like, we were just kidding. Just kidding. Here you go. Here's the real one.
Don't know what to say. Anyway. And lastly on the news, this is very cool. John Carpenter says he is interested in directing a Dead Space movie.
Dead Space?
The video game, yes. He wants to do an adaptation of the horror video game Dead Space.
Oh.
I'm not gonna lie, I never watched, but played that one. So I don't really know the premise of it. Sounds cool.
Dead Space, it's like basically it's a horror game set in space. A massive mining ship comes into contact with a mysterious alien artifact on a distant planet and suddenly loses its communications with Earth. Engineer Isaac Clarke is sent to repair the communications, but arrives to find a floating vessel that has become a bloodbath. The crew is mutilated and infected with an ancient alien scourge. Clark's repair mission is transformed into one of survival as he fights to save himself and return the artifact to the planet at any cost. Can you imagine that directed by John Carpenter?
That is going to be good.
He's been wanting to do it for a long time. He's been pitching it for a while. Like, I would love to do that. So whoever holds the license to Dead Space, God damn it, let John Carpenter direct your movie. For crying out loud. Jeez.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Why is he having to beg for this?
Right?
I feel like I'm gonna have to like win the lottery and buy the rights.
No kidding. Just throw the money at it and say, hey, we're buying these rights, and John, here you go. Make the movie.
Just start spamming the creators with like The Thing and like all the you know, like
The Thing, Halloween, Escape from New York.
yeah.
You know all
Christine.
these? Yeah, look at all these. What are we doing?
Yeah.
I really just want John to direct something else before, he's done making movies completely. I would love for him to direct one more movie. Because I want to see a John Carpenter movie on the big screen one more time.
It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, guys, wraps up the horror news. Like I said, there's not a lot. So let's get into tonight's movie. We have done tonight George Romero's classic 1968 horror film, Night of the Living Dead, or as it was originally called, Night of the Flesh Eaters.
Ooh.
Yeah. Had a bunch of different titles. That's why, by the way, they lost the copyright. Did you know that?
No,
Really?
I've been waiting for you to tell the story.
Yeah, so it was originally called Night of the Flesh Eaters, and they had the copyright symbol and everything on it. When they changed the title to Night of the Living Dead, the person forgot to put the copyright symbol on it.
Dude.
And they lost the copyright to it, so that's how it fell into public domain.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
So that
That's
had to happen
insane.
pretty early on in this process.
Very well. It was after the film was made. Yeah, is when they were
Wow.
showing it. They changed the title because the original title was Night of the Flesh Eaters. Then when they changed the title, they didn't put the copyright on the film. So
Dang.
terrible, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about your guys' experiences with Night of the Living Dead. Let's start with you, Lydia, because this is your pick. What's your experience with Night of the Living Dead?
I think I bought it just like a cheap, a cheap DVD of it in like high school, early high school, and I was just like, yeah, I need some scary movies, so I went out and picked a bunch out, and that was one of them, and I was like I had no idea what I was in for. Like, really, I was like, okay, it's a good black and white, like, classic that I've never seen. Popped it in, and it was just so much better than I expected it to be. It's one of those.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's also like, if you were expecting like, oh, it's a black and white movie, so you're expecting like Frankenstein,
Yeah,
Wolfman,
or
and
something
it's
really cheesy.
Yeah, and it's way like more graphic
Mhm.
than those movies.
Mm-hmm.
It was extremely graphic for its time.
Yeah. And it's
Derek,
like it's
go
one of it's one of those that's
go
like just so ingrained in pop culture too, and it's like
It is
referenced in
pop culture.
everything.
Yeah,
It's that classic. Like it's it's one of
The-
those.
what it did for horror movies, we'll get into it, but what it did for horror movies is immeasurable.
Mm-hmm.
Immeasurable. Derek, what is your experience in history with this movie?
I have not seen this movie since I was a kid. So I'm gonna, dude, I guarantee it's been 30 years since I've seen this movie.
Wow.
I know I'm an old person, but Yeah, I remember some scenes of this movie. It was in black and white, which I'm curious if that was done to keep the rating down
It was done for cost, I believe.
for cost purposes.
Black and white stock was cheaper than color stock.
Well, there
For
you
sure.
go. Because I was like, man, this was made in the '60s. They definitely had.
Oh yeah, they had color. It was an artistic choice, but I also think it was the black and white stock is cheaper. But go ahead. So you haven't seen it in 30 years?
Yeah, 30 years. So I mean, it was really like watching it for the first time. I mean, it just
Um,
was.
I do not know when the first time I watched this movie was. I feel like there's never been a time that I hadn't already seen this movie. It's just I don't know if it's because it's so ingrained in pop culture, that it's just the classic what you think of when you think of like I mean, now I think what you think of when you think of zombies is more Dawn of the Dead than Night. Because it's we get the paler skin and all that stuff. But Night of the Living Dead, it's always just been on my radar. Like I said, I don't remember the first time I watched it, but I definitely know, I watched this in school at one point. They showed this at school for something. I don't know why. But we definitely watched this in school and I was like, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's just one of those. I remember one specific night when I was in high school, late at night. You remember IFC? You guys know IFC channel?
Yeah.
They used to late at night show uncut movies. And they showed Night of the Living Dead late one night. And I was by myself watching it downstairs and the lights were dimmed. It just was a perfect atmosphere for it. And it's always just been one that I really love. We'll talk about it, but I just love the tension in this movie. I love the atmosphere. And it's one that I go to if I'm really in the mood for that. And I'm a really big proponent. We'll talk about it eventually too, but I'm a really big proponent of the remake. I think it's one of the best remakes. The
That's
1990.
Tony Todd, right?
Yeah, the one with Tony Todd.
Yeah.
The 1990 version. It's pretty great, I think, too.
I remember that one more than I remembered this one.
Yeah, well, that one came out when we were alive, obviously. And I remember seeing the advertisements for the 90s version and like it being at the video store and renting it. But this one has just always been there. So where do you guys want to start with Night of the Living Dead? There's a lot to talk about. But not a lot like it's not like a beat by beat. So what do you guys want to talk about?
I want to talk about Barbara. Man, she's like, oh my god.
Yeah. I have issues with Barbara in the remake. We're not going to talk about the remake much, but Barbara in the remake is way better. And George Romero thought so too. He wrote the remake, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Really?
George Romero wrote the remake and Tom Savini directed it.
Nice.
So he completely rewrote Barbara's arc. He's like, I feel like I dropped the ball on Barbara in the original. So I'm going to fix it this time.
Wow.
Yeah, you definitely.
But what do you want to say about Barbara?
Well, actually, so in the beginning of the movie, I thought her banter with her brother, I'm assuming that's her brother.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So her banter with her brother was perfectly fine and she was normal. And then, like she crashed the car. And then once she got in the house, it was just like the switches went off.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that like trauma like that, she was in shock.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get that. But man, like Ben at one point smacks him because she smacked him first. Ben smacks her, and then from that point on, she was just like in a trance until the very end. Yeah,
yeah.
But I felt like that was a wasted character.
I agree, and so does George. So did George Romero, obviously.
Yeah,
because I agree.
It's frustrating.
She set up to be like our heroine, and then she just kind of.
I thought that's who she was going to be.
And then she just, for the rest of the movie, is like catatonic for no reason. I mean, not for no reason, but she's just catatonic. And then I think the actress did a good job.
Well, for the part she was, yeah, because like I said, she and her brother, and I forget who it was
John.
John.
Mhm.
I feel like they had a really good chemistry and a really good banter, and then where he's like, "They're coming for you, Barbara. They're gonna
Yeah.
get you, Barbara."
It's
Like,
one of
that
the
was
most one of the most classic scenes ever. They're coming
Mhm.
to get you, Barbara.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're acting like a child.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just yeah,
He
it's great.
puts those silly ass gloves on.
Yeah, you know what's funny about the opening? Lydia, what do you think about Barbara before we...
Yeah, I think every time I forgot to say this earlier, but this is like I watch this movie at least once a year. And I have a different opinion on her every time I watch it. So I guess it just depends on the mood I'm in. But yeah, it's like she kind of shuts down and is like really strange. And it's kind of hard to get you know, a good read on her character sometimes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I feel the same. And then what's funny about the opening is the coming to get you, Barbara. Stop it! You're acting like a child.
Mhm.
Every time I hear that, I think of Halloween 2. Because I've seen Halloween 2 more times than I've seen Night of the Living Dead. Not by much, but I've seen it more times. So every time I hear that, I'm like, oh, Night of the Living Dead. And then I think of the scene where the Shape steals the knife from the old couple. Because that's what he's watching on the TV. But yeah, so the opening is actually pretty effective, I think.
Yeah, I love the opening.
Yeah. I actually
is-
like the very first shot a lot, where it's just the empty street, and then we see them coming down the winding road slowly. It sets the atmosphere.
The thing for me is with the acting, and it's just that this movie is so old, it's like
It is.
it's kind of like one of those, like, is that how people acted back then? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just how people were. So I don't judge the dialogue too much, but I'm like, some of these things are like kind of strange, like her saying like, you're being childish or whatever. I'm
You're
like,
acting
well,
like a child.
you're
Yeah.
acting like a child because you're being scared in broad daylight right now.
Of a graveyard.
Yeah.
Lydia, I'm glad you brought this up because some of like the terminology and the way that they phrased things, I totally get. Like, you have to remember this film's place in history, right? It was in the 60s, but like, freaking Tom and Judy, man,
They are not good actors, no.
they like, man,
They're
every
kinda
time
rough.
that they were, because anytime that he had a scene, especially when he had scenes with like Ben, it was like, at one point, I'm pretty sure he looked at the camera.
Yeah,
He
Tom's
glanced
not
at
the
it.
best. Yeah, Tom's not the best. But Dwayne.
Keith Wayne.
Yeah, Keith Wayne. Yeah. But he's not the best, of course. But Dwayne Jones as Ben is awesome. Ben is great.
Dude, he carries this movie through a lot of scenes, and he's solid.
Very strong actor.
I know that this is like coming out of the 50s. It's still in the 60s, early in the 60s. I am so proud of like the way that they like carried his character. And there wasn't like any racial tensions between the characters or anything like that. Like, it was just as like these people are in this situation, and he asserted himself more as the dominant person. I mean, mainly because the only other guy,
Cooper,
he's a survivor.
Cooper is a shitbag. Yeah,
he is the definition of a shitbag. If you are ever confused of what that looks like, watch this movie.
I understand his child is hurt, but that's not the issue. He's just a dickhead.
I mean, he's a dickhead for sure, and like him just wanting to hunker down, I can totally understand that. But at the same time, like, you're really trapping yourself. Like, his logic, I feel like, is mainly flawed, and
well, it's mostly
he's just an overall dickhead.
Yeah, the fact, because they could have easily, and that's the main issue. Because George Romero always says that the zombies, or in this case the ghouls, because they weren't called zombies yet, but The ghouls are not the antagonists. The people are. The ghouls just put the people in a situation. And if they could have easily survived this night if they would have worked together.
100%.
Very easily. They could have all worked together, boarded up the house completely together, and then they all could have went down to the cell. Actually, they could have escaped. They would have worked together better.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't have had Tom be a dumbass and fucking throw gas onto a torch.
I mean, you could tell that he wasn't the brightest bulb in the shed, but also like that whole like plan was screwed the minute that Judy was like, "I want to go with him," and runs out there because at one point she gets stuck, so she really is the cause of his death.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that scene too. Let's talk about the graveyard scene real fast.
Okay.
The first ghoul we see. What do you guys think of the first ghoul?
It's kind of a bland ghoul, isn't he?
He is, but he's also iconic at the same time.
He is iconic. You're right. I know.
Because he's the first one. Yeah.
He just looks like a guy. He just looks like an old man.
Yeah.
Walking in a suit until you get really close, and then you realize something is definitely
wrong with him.
Which is scary.
This is definitely a film that, like, watching it, like I said, I hadn't seen this movie in 30 years, so it's like watching it for the first time. So if you're just watching it for the first time in today's world, having seen movies, TV shows like The Walking Dead or any of the other zombie movies, like, you're going to look at this movie and be like, what is that? But to Jamie's point, he was the first one. So what is that supposed to look like? So I definitely see where it's iconic. It's amazing.
Yeah, he is sort of bland, but that's kind of what I find spooky about him is he's just the way he lumbers. He's the first one that got like the first lumber down. And also the rules weren't completely set in stone yet. They're using tools, which they, don't do in the other Dead movies till like we get to land. But he's using tools to break the window. And that's a pretty intense little chase scene, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Where Barbara is being chased into the house.
Because although he's lumbering, he is at a brisk pace. Like, he's
at a pretty good clip.
Toes. Yeah.
And what I really like about, like, I love the farmhouse setting. It's really creepy.
For sure.
Because I always put myself in the situation when I watch this movie, and I'm just like, oh man, board up all these windows, and there's just so many entry points. But yeah, you're also in a, kind of a safe hold. I dig that. And then Ben comes in and just wrecks a bunch of ghouls. Like, he just goes off, and because that's what Romero's always said. If they're, one-on-one, if you could walk past them, really, but you can't get out of your own way to do so,
Yeah.
And Ben kills like a bunch of them. And there's a scene that I always, the ghoul that pops in the door behind Barbara, is always a really that guy's creepy. That's a creepy one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The way he like lumbers in after her.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ben stabs him in the head with a crowbar.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously it's a product of the times. A lot of like those where he's like beating him to death, they're out of frame. I totally understand that. I'm sure that also helped keep the budget down to something that was manageable.
That's right.
Yeah, and there were some scenes that they really did a great job. Like whenever they were shooting people, and you saw like the blood packets pop in the back.
Yeah, the squibs are good. Yeah,
yeah,
really
like
good.
Those are very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought that the timing was really done well, and those shots came across pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Ben's story that he tells about how he got to the farmhouse when he's talking about the diner and everything, because it's just Dwayne Jones doing stuff and telling the story. It's such a good performance.
Yeah.
All of his dialogue is just amazing. Like, you can just listen to him like all day,
Yeah. The only he does such a great job. Like, if it kills me. There's one scene in particular where they're like trying to organize the escape plan, and he's talking to Tom, and it just is like, damn you, Tom.
You're ruining the acting experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a great bit where before we meet the downstairs dwellers, where Ben is going around. It's after he knocks her out, after he knocks out Barbara, and he's like going around doing the whole gathering stuff, looking through stuff. And it's where he finds the gun. It's after he finds the radio,
So this is before the people come up.
Before the downstairs dwellers come up, yeah. And he's listening to the radio, and the radio is delivering a bunch of exposition, but it's delivered over Ben doing all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it keeps you engaged. So you're listening to the what is essentially an exposition dump, but it doesn't feel like it because there's action going on as he's doing it. It's really great filmmaking.
Oh yeah, that's a great decision for everything you just said. Because you don't feel like they're explaining what's going. I mean, they are, but like he's a character. He's getting this information when you're getting the information.
Right.
So it's not like an overlay, like they're explaining to you like what happened. This is him learning as well.
Yeah, and it's not just him sitting and it's a shot of the radio or something. He's gathering all of this stuff, and he's finding the gun, and he's doing all of this business while it's playing. So that way we get that information relayed to us.
Yeah.
And then when they come upstairs and Ben's, runs downstairs to see what's going on, immediately Cooper's just like an asshole. It's like immediate. And immediately they're both like diametrically opposite sides.
Well, one has courage and one's a weaselly
Coward.
bastard. So
yeah, there's that too. He's like, you didn't hear us up here? Well, how was I supposed to know? Which, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, you heard stuff going on. I understand you're safe. That's fine. But also, you hear woman screaming. You're like, well, maybe I could see if she needs help. We could at least look.
mm-hmm.
And you could get the sense that Tom wanted to, but Cooper didn't. And the fact that they have these factions where it's like, okay, I'm staying downstairs. And he's like, well, I'm the boss up here. And it's like, or you guys could have just worked together and you wouldn't have had to worry about it.
Yeah, this is definitely like a moment of like, because I kind of feel like I would be the one that would be like, hide it out in the basement. Like that's where I would probably be. So, but like all the arguing is upsetting for sure. These two characters just going back and forth because, I mean, if you think about it, if they would have waited in the basement, they probably would have been okay.
They might have, yeah. And if they wouldn't have tried to escape, they would have been okay too, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight is 2020, right? At that point, you don't know what you don't know, and my first thought was, you've got what 6 people in this house, and like, what are your supplies? You've got probably water.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
you got food. He said they have that.
You have some, but like between 6 people, how long is that? Like your plan would have to be to get out of there, which I mean, it probably would have been a solid plan if they hadn't caught their truck on fire. But
yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, also, by the way, when they can't get that lock off and they shoot it, I'm just like, that is the worst thing that you could probably do.
It worked.
I know it worked, man, but it could have easily not worked.
Backfired. There's some interesting stuff. What's funny about the Cooper Ben dynamic is that it boils down to just respect. And we find when Cooper goes back downstairs and he's with his wife, we realize that because his wife hates him as well because he's a fuck. And she's like, and he's like, we'll see. I'll be right. They'll be coming down here and they'll know I was right. And she's like, oh yeah, because that's what's important, right?
Yeah, she does. She tells him.
Yeah.
Like,
and she goes, we don't have to. we don't have to like living together, but dying together doesn't seem like too much fun either. So how about we just work together? And he's just too proud, and he's too much of an asshole to,
Yeah.
work it out. Because Ben a couple different times says, if we work together, we can all board this up. And he's like, I'm going down to the basement. Anybody want to go down with me? I'm like, no. Mainly, hey, if we die up here, at least we're not talking to you. So, because you suck, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think like the basement because they have a daughter who is like hurt,
Yeah.
That's the thing that I consider is like she can't, it's gonna be hard to defend her anywhere else, really.
No, she should stay in the basement, and somebody could have stayed down with her. That's
Yeah.
you keep it open, keep the whole house open, and then if you need to fall back into the basement, you fall back into the basement. I mean,
Oh, that's 100%. Because Cooper is like, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna board it up. And you guys won't get down there. I'm just like, why would you do that? Like, wait till you need to go down there and then go down there.
yeah, and it's
Kind
kind
of
of
what happens to Ben.
Well, that's what Ben says too. He says, and I think Tom does as well, when he's like, we can stay up here. Then if we need to fall back into the basement, we can go down there, and we'll be able to lock ourselves. Because Ben has a contingency plan before that, because there's a room that's completely fortified
Yeah.
that he was going to shut them in if he needed to. So they have these contingency plans, but they just can't work together. And there's an undercurrent to that. And it is the social the social aspect of this story, because you have to remember this is 1968, right smack dab in the middle of the civil rights movement,
Yep.
um
Yep.
and that's a big part of this. It's a big part of this movie.
See, I didn't pick up any of that from the characters, only
No.
because
It's not the characters.
when
It's
he goes, oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say it's the film's point of view. I mean,
And that's
it's the way
fair.
the way the film, especially the way it plays out, which I'll talk about when we get there.
Yeah. And so the reason why I wasn't like, oh, he's definitely like on, one radical side or not, it's because when he goes down to the basement, his wife is like, she hates his guts too, to what you said. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, that's just him.
No, he just hates everybody. He's a prick. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think Cooper's racist by just flat out racist. I think he's just
Just an asshole.
an asshole that can't get along with anybody.
Mhm.
Can't even get along with his own wife. Can't get along with Tom. His daughter bites his arm off because she probably hates him.
Yeah.
She probably wasn't even a zombie at that point. She was just like, fuck you, Dad. I'm over you.
I'll show you.
I'm tired of you being a dick all the time.
I definitely would have inquired. I mean, so they're continuing. It's not like they give all the information at the one time. Like periodically throughout the movie, they're getting information from the
Mhm.
TV,
Mhm.
and they're slow dripping this stuff. And I don't even think at any point they say if you get bit that you would transition.
They don't, because
probably
they don't
didn't
know
even
yet.
that. Yeah.
But what he does say is, if you have any injuries, you need to get that taken care of, because we don't know what that would entail.
That. Yep.
And Ben says when we find out that she was bitten, he's like, well, we don't know what kind of diseases these things have, so
Yep.
that's probably really bad. Who knows?
But
we
go ahead.
I was gonna say, we are fed the information that in order to kill them, you have to kill the brain.
Yeah.
So a shot to the head or blunt blow to the head, and then catch the bodies on fire. And there's a great bit where that guy says, he's like, well, what about funerals? We don't have time for funerals. We're going to have to basically forego the comfort that funerals give you and just burn them. They're nothing but dead flesh, and they're dangerous. What were you going to say, Derek?
It's going to come back to me here in just a second. So this, I think I looked this up, and this was not the first zombie movie, right?
Well,
There was
it's
one
the
with
first.
Bela Lugosi, right?
Those are different kind of. There was a bunch of zombie movies, which is, living people that are under control,
Yes.
hypnotized. Those were zombies originally.
Yeah.
Serpent in the Rainbow is a zombie movie about like the Haitian zombies.
Okay. I gotcha.
Night of the Living Dead is the first what is a modern zombie movie, which is what we
Mhm.
know as zombies now. Flesh-eating ghouls, essentially.
So with that aspect, and you made a point to this, it's immeasurable the impact that this movie has had. Like the rules that they set up and how they have stood the test of time.
Yeah, the rules kind of most of your modern zombie movies trace back to, almost all of them do, trace back to Night of the Living Dead in those rules. The kill the brain, they eat flesh, they're the living dead reanimated. Now granted, the living dead do walk in Ed Wood, but that's not the same thing. And it's terrible. But yeah, all of the rules that we set, the bite and then you turn. If you recently died, you turn. That's not in this movie yet. That's in the next one, Dawn. That happens. But yes, the rules start with this one. And it is crazy. You're right. Here we are in 2022, and there was a TV show on for many seasons that was basically those Romero's zombies. I mean,
oh yeah, even to the point where
they walk.
Well, they all it just spontaneously happened.
Yeah, it's just that's what a zombie
and
was.
if you die, then you come back. You don't have to be bitten. Which I found that interesting that was a part of this, and the origin of this is actually kind of interesting. And somebody once asked the creator of the Walking Dead, how did this all start? And no one knows if it's a joke because I think it was on Twitter. He was like, alien spores or space spores or something like that. And
which is heavily hinted at in this movie.
Yeah, because it's the radiation from a probe that was sent to, what was it, Venus?
Venus, yeah.
Yep,
oh my gosh.
And they detected a weird radiation.
Yeah, and that's hinted at, and that's kind of the explanation, but it's not like the official explanation. Yeah, they play along with it, but yeah, radiation, essentially, like alien radiation, is what brought because in Romero's movies, it's the recently deceased that are coming back to the dead. In this movie, it's recently deceased. It's not people from the graves coming back like in Return of the Living Dead and whatnot. It's people that have recently deceased reanimate. So, and then once then people turn as well. But yeah, all of that stuff is immeasurable. But not only that, not only the zombie lore, but this modernized horror. This didn't take place in a Gothic castle. This didn't take place in Transylvania. This took place in Pennsylvania. This is Pittsburgh. This is modern America. Yeah. And it's modern day America.
Rural America.
Yeah. Dealing with a crazy problem. And we see graphic violence and we see cannibalism. It modernized horror in a big way. Pretty quick. Horror grew up very quick because of this movie.
Oh yeah, when they were there was a scene where they were, eating intestines and livers and stuff like that. I'm just like, man, I wonder if this movie was the first to be like, check this out.
One of them, I mean, it was freaked people out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So let's talk about there's a news broadcast, and it's one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie when Chili Billy Cardell is interviewing the sheriff, and the sheriff says, "Yeah, they're all messed up."
Are they slow moving, Chief? Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Fucking cracks me up. It's so funny. because he's just like that was improvised, but he's just like, yeah, they're all messed up.
Yeah, when like their appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
That's
the news
awesome.
broadcasts were pretty well done. Like the acting there seemed pretty
Well,
good, and
the guy doing the news broadcast is a local horror host, Bill Cardell, who also was a news anchor in real life, like a newsman, and he also did like Sammy Terry or Svengoolie, those sort of things. He was the Pennsylvania version of Chili Billy Cardell, and he would do horror stuff. So Romero put him in the movie as himself. He plays himself in the movie.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Respect.
So oh yeah, look at that.
Look at this camera.
I know. And look at that tripod in the setup.
I
You know
know.
what that reminds me of?
What's that?
That scene in The Conjuring
Oh
when
yeah.
they get the new cameras. Like, man,
Yeah.
these are so light.
Yeah, and it's like a 45 pounds.
Yeah. I do have to say the actress who plays Karen is not Karen.
Barbara.
Helen.
Oh.
Barbara. Yeah, I
Barbara?
couldn't think of it. Yeah. She's a very beautiful lady.
She's stunning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's gorgeous. That's a great picture. All
I
of
know.
them
Look
having
at
fun.
these. Aren't these amazing?
Yeah, they are quite
amazing.
awesome.
Look at
I
this
love the
though.
Xfinity phone.
I just can't get over how
Yeah,
this camera
it's so
is.
it's so great.
Must have been heavy as hell. Look at these squibs right here.
Yep,
Those are straight up explosives.
Yep. charges right to the back.
Yep, that's safe.
That's what the thing was. But
Sorry, guys. I'll quit.
yeah, look at that.
No, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Great.
I was going through these while we were talking, and I was just like, these are amazing. I have to share.
So yeah, those are awesome. It's so like think about that. They're shooting this movie like we've got enough money. Let's make this fun little horror movie, and they end up making Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
A classic that we're talking about in 2022.
Yeah.
Like that's wild.
I heard I forget, I saw this on like a documentary of some kind, but I heard that oh shoot, what was I gonna say? I just left my mind. I heard, what did I hear about this movie? That the actor when they were cast like that role was meant like wasn't written like for a black man, and that's
Ben's
probably
role
why
was
there's
no Dwayne. Ben was just written as a guy.
yeah.
And Dwayne Jones gave the best performance.
Yes, I love that story so much.
Yeah.
Of like, we didn't know we were gonna cast him. He was just the best actor that auditioned, so we obviously chose him. And it was
Yes.
like the most amazing choice, I feel like.
Well, I think the choice of casting Ben gave the movie focus.
Yeah.
Because then Romero was able to do his social commentary. Then he knew what he was doing. He knew what
Mhm.
kind of movie he was making then.
Man, how cool is that? I love it. And he does such a great job. He does such a great performance.
Yeah. There's some really great shots in this movie. Like, I think the photography on it is gorgeous, especially with that. I watched the 4K scan of it, the Criterion Collection, and it's beautiful. It's stunning.
I am glad you said that because I started watching a 480 version
Oh,
of this movie, and then like it cut out, and I was like, okay, well, it didn't look great, so I found it on another site. Actually, I've got this app called Classic, and it's got a ton of like classic movies, none of which I've ever seen. So this is a whole new genre because I hate watching classic movies. But they had it in 720, and I was like, wow, this is so much better compared to the version I was watching.
I watched it on HBO Max, and it's the Criterion Collection 4K scan of it.
Okay, so even better.
I wish I would have watched that one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. the Criterion Collection does great work, but it's the photography in this is very beautiful, and there's some great contrast with the light and dark. So let's talk about Helen's death scene real fast. I know we're skipping around, but actually, before we talk about her death scene, let's talk about the failed escape attempt.
Stupid Tom.
So yeah, the scene is. What do you guys think of this? It's very intense, right?
It's very intense.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're throwing Moloch cocktails out the top window. This is one of the only times when Cooper decides that he's going to help, and he's the farthest one away from the action.
Of course.
Yeah, so he's on the second level throwing these bombs out the window to clear a spot because the zombies
They're afraid
are
of
all
fire.
around him. Yeah. And so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a cool setup, and the scene, the execution's good. She runs out and throws a wrench in the plan, so they just keep moving on.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, it's just like in the remake. The reason that it happens is better. In this version, in the original version, Tom is just a fucking idiot. It's what it boils down to.
He just starts blasting the gas all over the place, like.
It's like he was like, the truck's got 18 miles. I better run this.
Yeah, 18 miles. Oh my gosh.
No,
Full
I do
circle.
think it is. I think it's hilarious that he's like, baby, I gotta go. I gotta go out there. I'm the only one who can operate the truck and the pump. I gotta operate the pump. And he's like,
Well, somebody else should have operated the punt.
Yeah, you obviously don't know how to operate a pump when you're spewing gas all over the place.
No shit. Yeah.
You know what irritated me? How like Tom is like super level-headed for the most part the whole time, and then he just starts going off on Judy about like making the the wicks for the
Yeah.
I was like, what? Why? Why is he
It's
getting
showing
so
all
shitty
their-
with her?
It's showing all their tensions building. I get why
Yeah.
it's there. But what really makes me laugh is so they catch the truck on fire. Ben is putting out the fire so it doesn't blow up the pump. And then he's like, we gotta get out of here, and just starts driving away while the car's on. Thinks he's fucking Christine driving
Right.
with his car on fire.
Yeah.
And Ben's like, get out of the car. What are you doing? And then he finally, after he drives for what seems like forever, he's like, we got to get out. Judy, come on. She's like, I'm stuck.
Come on, come on. I'll take this car.
She does that. She does deliver that line with the least amount of like urgency.
Yeah.
I'm stuck. Yeah.
Oh man.
And they go up. And when they blow up, it's great too, because we get just a flash frame.
Yeah.
Because they don't, that was how are they going to film that? With a budget they shot this for like $114,000 to $125,000. So it's like there's a flash frame, then they blow up this truck. We see it on fire, which is glorious. And then we get this elongated scene of the zombies just eating the body parts. That's what you were talking about, Derek. It's actually pretty gross.
It
Still.
is gross.
Still gross
effective.
to this day. Yeah.
It looks
What do you think?
nasty.
What do you think, Derek? You're muted.
I think it was effective. I think that it, especially for the era, it was probably even more. I could only imagine that they had people walking out of the theaters like, oh my God, what did I see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still effective. They did a good job. I love the fact that they actually had people eating,
Stuff,
ribs.
yeah.
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 Ribs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean they did. They had like there's
Ooh,
chicken
yummy.
that
Yeah.
they had
Yeah.
as the flesh, and then their
Yeah.
actual kidneys and stuff like that.
You'd have to be a special person to like eat raw chicken.
Yeah,
I'm sure they like chicken kidneys or whatever. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
yeah. So that was pretty interesting.
yeah. I
Yum.
still find there's a bit where there's this one zombie just gnawing on this piece as it's walking through frame, and every time it always kind of turns my stomach a little bit. I'm always like, ugh. Like I can
Yeah.
just imagine that actor
Yeah.
having to eat this gross, like probably sitting in the sun, fucking piece of chicken. He's walking through, gnawing on
Yeah.
it.
Oh, they didn't care back then, you know.
Yeah. But anyway, that's a super awesome scene. One of the grossest. There's also a naked woman in this scene.
Yeah.
It's like a nude zombie walks by, and that's also like,
Which you would think there would be more of, honestly.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, if
you think there should be more. Like,
if there all these people, no, I mean, if you think about it, like all these people are reanimated.
yeah. So
Like
they
where were they all just laying dead somewhere, you know, where they weren't buried? They would be like in a morgue or naked in a
So you would
boring,
probably
yep.
start out with in hospitals, right?
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are recently dead people in hospitals.
And then they would bite people that would spread. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, hospitals, morgues, and funeral homes. That's what they said on the news broadcasts, which makes sense.
Hmm.
The original ghoul is supposed to have been about to be buried. That's what he is. He was supposed to be, about to be buried. Recently deceased person. So let's talk about Helen's death here. Because it is something. Well, first Cooper dies because he decides after Ben beats the shit out of him for not helping him out, like he's just literally going to leave him out there to die. So he comes in, they board up the door, and then Ben just beats the shit out of him. And Cooper bitches out. He just completely, he's like, I'm not gonna be able to beat up Ben, so I'm just gonna get my ass beat. No big deal. So he when he pulls the gun on him, what do you guys think of this bit when he pulls the gun on Ben? So then Ben knocks it out of his hand, and then he shoots him. What do you guys think of this?
Yeah, I would have done the same thing, but I'd aim for the head.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to because that had to be what his plan was.
Yeah, he did try to murder you just now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Twice.
The first time, yeah, because the first time he did, he tried to leave you out there to be eaten alive.
Yeah, that's true. You
know,
can't trust the guy. Yeah.
And you had to kick the door in, and that's why you beat his ass. But yeah, no, I would have definitely went for the head.
So
Thanos to that bastard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So he stumbles downstairs, goes over by his daughter, who we established has been bitten and has been unconscious on the table. And then Helen goes downstairs after Barbara finally gets out of her catatonic state for 5 minutes to save her. And she runs downstairs and she sees her daughter gnawing on old boy's arm. What do you think of this? It's creepy, right?
It's totally creepy. And, if you're trying to imagine the emotions that she's going through, she's about got eaten alive.
Yeah.
She comes downstairs when she sees her daughter eating. She's gotten the arm off.
Yeah.
I would probably just give up at that point. Like, your husband's dead.
Yeah.
Your daughter is obviously a flesh-eating ghoul.
Well, I mean,
what's a spade to the heart?
Yeah. So this is, a straight up murder. We don't see in zombie movies. We see people eaten alive and bitten nowadays because that's what happens from Dawn of the Dead on. But in this one, she grabs a spade and stabs her to death. What do you think of that? Is that effective, right? And creepy, especially the echo on the scream. really creepy, right?
Yeah. I mean, we don't get to see what it looks like until she's discovered by Ben.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, her her role's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah. The blood used in that scene is actually chocolate syrup
Nice.
Nice.
Which you would never know because
because it's black
in
and
black
white.
and white. Yeah.
That's why they did it, and it works perfectly.
Yep.
Has the right consistency when it goes down the wall and stuff.
Looks great.
Yeah, and it tastes yummy.
My blood
Hey.
is chocolate syrup, so
Yeah, all of the blood that we make for our movies is actually chocolate syrup.
I mean, like my actual blood.
Your actual blood is? Yeah.
I went to
Are
the
the-
doctor the other day and he was like, I don't know how you're kicking.
Yeah. Like you just have chocolate syrup in your veins.
Yeah, the blood that we make is a mix of chocolate syrup and food coloring and some other stuff.
Yep.
So it tastes delicious.
It does. Was it corn syrup?
As long as you do it within, I mean, if it's after, a while, you don't want to eat it, but it still looks great. But yeah, I love that scene. It's always because she looks really creepy too, the way she blacked under
She
her
looks
eyes.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's a good makeup job on her for what it was because we don't have the actual zombie makeup yet. She's just a ghoul.
Yeah.
And then old Barbara gets pulled out by John.
Oh, Barbara.
Derek, you have something to say about this. Go ahead.
She's the most pointless character in any movie that I've seen recently. Yeah, I just don't know. And I do love like there's scenes where, especially in the beginning when it's just her and Ben, and like he's getting upset with her because she obviously is like she's in shock and she's not responding. But there's a moment where and this is just him being a good actor, so he's like yelling at her and he calms down, and then he starts to like talk to her much like you would a kid or somebody who's just went through a bunch of trauma that that they're not able to understand a lot right now. And I love that nuance in his performance when he's talking to her, but man, she's a very frustrating character.
Yeah, and she just ends with Johnny taking her off into the ether. I really can't wait to talk about the remake. I really can't. Barbara's a much better.
That soon.
Yeah. Barbara's a much better character. So Ben goes and locks himself in the cellar, and he survives the night, only to be gunned down by rednecks. What do you guys think of the ending to Night of the Living Dead?
Devastating.
It's super devastating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. I mean, in one hand, you're kind of like, wow, I just watched this movie about the survival of these people, and it was literally for nothing because he got gunned down. I just love how he's like, yeah, he shot him right in the head.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, good shot. I don't know how when you go in there and you see that there was a gun laying next to the person, you're not like, but now they just like, I assume just drag him out and burn his body because
now here's where the social commentary comes in, right?
Yeah.
Would they even care?
Right.
Probably not.
Did they care? Did they know?
Yeah. And, that's probably how people were feeling at that time, that it didn't matter,
Yeah. Sad.
Yeah.
But it's a very good shock ending. I mean, it is. I mean, you don't expect it. You're like, oh, whew, good job, Ben. You made it through the night. And then I just don't. I mean, yeah, he should have saw there's people out there with guns, said, "Hey, I'm alive in here. Don't kill me."
Yeah,
not a ghoul.
Especially they're approaching, and he wakes up because he hears gunshots.
Uh-huh.
So that people are firing, and you're in the middle of it. Like, I would have a little bit more caution. A white flag, or a microphone, like I'm alive.
Yeah, or just saying,
SOS.
not a ghoul,
Not a girl over here.
not ghouly.
Yeah,
And
that is devastating to
Yeah.
think. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I felt that.
I remember, watching this as a youngster, and just kind of, the ending would happen, and it just would happen. Then as I got older, I remember that time I watched it on AFC is one of the times I remember most clearly. Just the gut punch of it, because you're into the story, and I knew it was coming, of course, because I seen it. But it's just like, man, I really wanted Ben to live.
Yeah.
He goes through all this, and he's so cool. And
It's just one of those, like, it's not fair, It's
Yeah,
just
it's not fair.
that we went on that journey
Yep,
and for nothing,
for nothing.
Ugh.
It's kind of like building up a movie, and you have 3 movies, and the first 2 are good, and the third one is just terrible.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And then
I hate
you're
when
just
that
like-
happens.
And then you're just like, what the fuck was that? Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
hate when that happens.
Oh.
So you never know. But that is George A. Romero's classic 1968 zombie masterpiece, Night of the Living Dead. So, guys, what do you think of Night of the Living Dead? Who wants to go first? I'm being the shape.
Derek, go first.
Okay. I'm not a huge fan of older movies. Now this one is not as old as it might seem because of the choice that they made to film in black and white, right? So when I looked this up and saw that it was made in the 60s, I had to think like, man, they definitely had like colored film way before that.
They had colored film since the 30s, really.
Yeah.
Technicolor. I mean, Wizard of Oz has
So
color.
I that took me back, and then I was like, well, they probably did it for. I thought it was initially to keep the rating down initially, but
Did not. I
everything
think this
that
movie was released unrated, I do believe, because it was slapped with a big old X.
yeah, and then everything that you mentioned, like it's cheaper film, you can hide blood and things like that. That all makes sense. There's one really good performance. There's another okay performance. They
I
just
think
didn't give a
Cooper
lot
is a
of
good
material.
performance.
I think
Cooper's
Cooper,
a good. Yeah.
For the most part, his death scene is like
Yeah,
little lackluster.
That's like, holdover of 50s acting.
Yeah, that got me. But Tom and Judy are like the weakest.
A contender.
Yeah. Tom and Judy are the weak points as far as acting goes. The originality of the story goes a long way. Like what it did for the genre of horror. That always gets me when you watch something like this that literally 50, almost 60 years later, they're still using the material.
Let's also not gloss past the fact that this is an independent film.
That is also
This is an independent movie. George Romero is the original independent filmmaker. You know what I mean? I get
Yeah.
Ed Wood too, but he made terrible movies again. But like George Romero, this was an independent movie. This is an indie film. Like,
wow.
yeah.
So I looked this up on IMDb because I was curious of some of the information. They had it rated as a 7.8. I'm probably going to keep that. There are parts that could have been better, but they probably could have had a bigger budget if that were the case. So I'm going to give it a 7.8. I think that's appropriate.
Nice. Lydia.
I was actually thinking an 8 for me too. It's definitely like there are some problems with it, but and I don't think I ever realized that this movie could have been in color. Like I don't think that ever like even like occurred to me. And I don't know if that changes the way I think about it, because I think I put it like way older in my head, you know. I'm not very good with timelines though, honestly.
I mean, think about this. This movie came out 8 years after Psycho.
Yeah. I was thinking about Psycho a lot when I was watching this for some reason.
They had already made 5 James Bond movies by the time this movie came out.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. So I don't know if that changes the way I look at it, but I do love this movie. I love putting it on. I don't know. There's something about like the sound design and the look and like the aesthetic that just makes me happy. Anyway, so there are a lot of crickets chirping in this movie.
There are the music is also very like 50s.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
You know what I
which
mean?
I like, you know.
Yeah.
So I
Very
would
drive-in.
recommend. I would definitely recommend you, like, anyone has to watch this movie if you're into horror movies. It's just historic for historic purposes, honestly.
I would agree. I agree. I also am going to give it an 8. It's a great movie. It's just it's a very well shot movie. There's some really cool, stunning shots. There's a bit where towards the beginning where Barbara falls and she loses her shoe.
Mhm.
When she loses her shoe, and you see the shoe in the foreground, and she's in the background. It's a very just well composed shot. I noticed that while I was on this watch. I was like, "Oh, that's very, very nice."
Well,
I turned into Borat. Very nice. And yeah, it's the acting's strong for the most part. There's some weak links as we discussed, but there's some great performances and a good sound design. You're right, Leah, and especially like when she's doing the phone thing. That's really strong sounding. I was thinking about that when I watched it today too. And then yeah, what it did for not only genre filmmaking but independent filmmaking, you know.
Mhm.
You can make an independent movie and it can gross. This movie in 1968 grossed $30 million off of $115 million budget, and that's huge.
115,000.
For 15,000, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
115,000,
That is huge.
very huge.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, I mean, so it's a classic, 8 for sure. Also another little note: the actor that plays Cooper, right, is
Mhm.
actually Carl Hardman. He's one of the producers of the movie.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
he's
saw
a producer.
I saw some pictures of it. Looked like him doing some makeup effects.
That's independent filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
We know from experience what it is. It's we all do all of the jobs, you know, until the cameras are rolling. Then we do our role. But like setting up, I put up lights. Derek runs cables. You know set up things, and then you do the makeup, and then I do makeup touch up if I need to.
And then I'll
you know,
go move a light. And
you'll go
then-
move a light.
You
And
know?
then and then we're like, okay, everybody's in place. You know, Derek's holding the boom mic.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and as he's shooting, and it's just that's what you do with independent filmmaking. You do what needs to be done in order to make it, and it's kind of beautiful. I mean, it's kind of the purest of filmmaking, right?
Mhm.
Right? Just beautiful.
The experience
Yeah,
of just a team working together to make some art, you know.
being on the set. Yep, and just trying shit, see if it's working. Last shoot, we had literally we had me standing underneath the camera with a fog machine, trying to make it fog into the scene. And just it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's independent filmmaking. So yeah, Night of the Living Dead's a stone cold classic, guys.
For sure.
So you guys know what time it is. It is time to Atkinize Night of the Living Dead.
Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me.
Detective, thrill me.
Who would the great Tom Atkins play in this film?
Dude, it would make it like a 9.5.
Of course.
Yeah.
I would put him as Tom. Although it would ruin it because there's no way Tom's going to go out, or
Tom, yeah. Tom is both.
Atkins would go out that way.
I think I would cast him as either. I think I'd cast him as the sheriff because it'd be hilarious to
That
see him
would be
wear like
good.
some fucking funny hat and talk like, yeah, they're all messed up.
That would have been a good pick, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he definitely don't want him to be Cooper.
Right. Although
No,
he would
Ben.
I think he would do good as all of them. You
Of
know what I
course.
mean?
He can do good as anything. He's Tom Atkins.
Yeah.
Like, that's why God
I mean-
created guns, babe. That's why God created guns.
Picture him as Ben.
Oh, he would be great as Ben.
What different movie this would have been? You know,
It would have
what I
been a
mean?
completely different movie. Yeah, but we can't recast Ben.
No, we can't.
No. He was
Ben
so
is one of
solid.
the first, and he's one of the first African American horror leads.
Yeah,
You know?
he's like the hero,
Yeah.
You know,
which is fantastic.
and I'm sure that it came down to being an independent film and like lack of budget and things like that. But at this time, there's some courage in going that direction and making it him your lead.
Mhm.
And then the fact that it grossed that much money is also an amazing thing as well. So kudos to them.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's no way that guy would walk in a room and read a line and you'd be like, pass. Like,
Yeah.
you will cast that guy. Like, he is good. Like, you just know. Like, he carries himself amazingly. Like,
Confidence,
he's
the
so
confidence.
confident and
Yeah.
strong and like, oh, like I would follow that guy in the zombie apocalypse, you know?
I would follow you, Ben.
Yes.
I'm sure it went something like, man, I mean, at this point, I think Tom's gonna be our lead, and then they saw that guy and they're like, nope, he's demoted. He
I
can
don't
be the
think
guy
Tom
who
was.
blows himself up.
I don't think Tom was ever in the running for the lead.
Tom
think
did
they
a
were
great
like-
job.
I think they're like, man, we really need somebody to play Tom. Hey, you want to come over here and do it? Yeah.
Yeah, let me-
Tom,
They
I think
do
they
that.
cast Tom on his looks a little bit. You know,
Yeah,
I
he's
think
very
he kind of
handsome. Yeah.
was like a model at that time or
He's
something.
a very handsome guy. Tom is played by Keith Wayne, by the way, not to be
Yeah.
mean to him, but this is his only film role.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
see why they're like,
He actually, well, this is going to be a bummer, but he became a chiropractor. He worked
I
as a
said a
singer.
bummer.
Well, that's not the bummer. He worked as a singer for a number of years, with Bill Roberts' show, Keith Wayne in the Untied Brass Works, and others. And then in the 80s, he became a chiropractor. He wrote a column for a number of years called Chiropractic Corner.
Okay.
This is what's sad is he died by suicide in 1995
Oh,
at the age of 50.
damn. That is
Yeah.
sad. That is a bummer.
Yeah.
All
Bummer.
right, I retract everything I just said
No, we can't. He
about
is
how
bad.
He's
He's not a very good actor, but he's not an actor. He doesn't. He
Yeah.
only made one movie.
Yeah, he's a chiropractor that was in a zombie movie.
Yeah. Hey, which is not the first time that's happened because Ed Wood's chiropractor played Bela Lugosi in fucking Plan 9.
Oh shit.
He's like 2 feet taller and he has a cape over his. I swear I'm Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
We've got to do Ed Wood at some point. That's a fucking special one. Or we got to do Plan 9. I mean, Plan 9 because Ed Wood
Yeah.
is a fantastic film, but
Plan 9 though.
Plan 9 is special.
Yeah.
It is special. So, guys, Derek, what are we watching next week? Next week is our big Halloween episode.
It is.
So, what are we watching for our Halloween episode?
Well, it looks like Mr. Atkins is going to make another appearance.
What? You say? What?
I know. He's going to appear in Halloween 3.
All right. So we
Season
are going
of the
to
Witch.
do
And
Tommy
we-
Lee Wallace's Season of the Witch.
And we all know that it ranks number 1 of all the Halloween movies that have ever been made.
No, that's not true.
Obviously, that's not true. That was sarcasm.
Yes, number one is number one, but no, it sits outside of the rankings for me because it's like such a completely different thing.
It's so different. Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's it's the only one that doesn't have Michael Myers in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the new one comes close.
I almost just spit my coffee everywhere.
Oh
Anyway.
man, is it dark
Yeah.
roast?
Yes, that was a roast. That was a roast.
That was the Lydia's coffee joke. Anyway,
So, yes, it doesn't have the shape in it. It's about the Silver Shamrock masks, and it stars the great Tom Atkins in it. It's a very fun ride. I actually quite like this movie. Like I said, I don't rank it with the other Halloween movies because it's so different. But as a standalone film, if this movie wasn't called, we'll talk about it. But if it wasn't called Halloween 3, I think people would have a way different perspective on it.
Yep.
I think you're right.
I agree.
It gets a bad rap because of the
I'm
franchise that it was originally tied to.
I'm really excited to talk about this one, guys.
I'm
This is
so
the
excited.
We get to do a Tom Atkins movie again.
Yes.
It's been, what's the last one we did? Night of the Creeps?
Yep.
It's time, baby. Time to Atkinize.
Yes.
We're going to Atkinize next week's episode. It's going to star Tom Atkins.
Yes.
So, Season of the Witch.
Are
All
we
right,
gonna
guys.
dress up, guys?
I think we might.
I think we need our costumes for our Halloween
Uh-huh.
episode, and
Uh-huh.
we'll do our annual costume contest if anybody wants to dress up and tag us in their costumes, and we can, maybe decide on, some shout outs or something as like your
Yes.
reward.
So, we will be dressed up. We're not going to tell you what we're going to be dressed up as yet, of course. But we will be dressed up as something. And then join us next week for Halloween Season of the Witch, Halloween 3. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Derek, do you have a story for us today?
I didn't think of one. Did
Why
I
don't
already
you-
get the me running out of gas on this?
You told that today.
on this piece.
Why don't you tell the story about how you insulted one of our friends at the circus building?
Oh no! That's
Did you say
terrible.
insulted or assaulted?
No, I
Insulted.
insulted.
Okay.
I don't
You
know
don't have
that
to
I've
use
ever
names.
assaulted
You don't have to
anyone
use
in my
names.
life. Oh my gosh! You tell it better.
Okay.
You should tell it. It's terrible. I've got a way with words. My wife tells me all the time.
We were at the so this is another Derek putting his foot in his mouth story that he spoke about earlier. Well, off mic he talked about. But so we had a gig, my band, when we played. We had a gig at the circus building. And we were tearing down. And it's me and one of my buddies are tearing down equipment, and he's talking to me about these girl problems that he's having. He just broke up with this girl, and he was talking about her. Derek walks in, just unbeknownst, he's helping us tear down, and he hears my friend mention his girlfriend's name. And Derek repeats her name, and he's like, her? And my friend says, yeah. He goes, oh, man, she looks like she got hit by the ugly train. And then he
Oh,
says,
no.
my friend says, yeah, we used to date. And Derek, there's like a 3-second pause, and Derek goes, ah, man, it really doesn't matter what I think. I die. I'm over there, like, leaned up against an amp, literally laughing. I'm trying so hard not to. My friend just doesn't know what to say. He's just like, oh, he walks off. Derek comes over to me, and he's just like, oh my God, man, I didn't know they used to do it. It was like, do now?
Oh my gosh.
The classic. That was a classic Derek one. He has a way with words, don't you, buddy?
I do. So I do have a story. but I'll only let me preface it real quick, and I'll ask you if it would be an okay one to tell.
Uh-huh.
If it's not me making a racial statement, is it okay to tell the story?
Sure.
Okay, so me and my two roommates when we were in college, we went to Ball State, right? So this is Muncie, Indiana, and there's a ton of people there who are Indiana rednecks, and so we're at Walmart at like 11 o'clock at night, and this guy walks up to us. He's like real scraggly, an older man. He's got a like brimmed hat on. He walks up to us.
Was he Freddy?
No, he was not Freddy.
Striped
He
sweater,
probably could have. No, it wasn't a striped sweater.
Burnt face?
knives for fingers.
Diddling kids?
Maybe that too. I don't know. But he goes, "Hey, you know where I can buy a block of ice?" And I'm like,
Oh gosh.
I paused for a second. I was like, why don't you just buy a bag of ice? And he goes, "That's a good idea. Do you know you
What?
can't shoot Mexicans anymore?" And I was like,
What?
I bent over. I was laughing so hard. I bent over in pain, and I like walked away, and I left my two roommates to fend for themselves. So I walk away, and I'm laughing so hard. And then a couple minutes later, my other friend Phil, like he walks away and leaves the only female in this group, leaves her there to fend for herself with this guy, and they talk for like another 5 minutes. I'm just like, oh my God, what was that about?
Did you tell him
Lord.
it's never been okay to do that?
Right?
Literally, that was the farthest thing from my mind I was
Wait.
expecting for that guy to
What
say.
was he gonna do with a block of ice?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I have no idea.
I
don't know.
assume.
I don't want to know. That sounds like a setup to a horror movie. That's like an opener right there.
It does. Actually, he reminds me of the guy from Wolf Creek.
Oh,
Oh,
He looked a lot like him, but
interesting.
good Lord.
Jesus.
That's insane.
Oh, it's a great state
Ooh.
to live in.
Yeah.
So that was our story time. I actually had another story, but we'll save it for next week.
Yeah.
That's our show for tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment down below on any horror movies you want us to do in the future. Be sure to ring the bell for notifications, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I have some news on the new short we're shooting. It is we had to postpone the shoot for this coming week, so it'll be shooting next month, and it'll be out when it's done. Don't have a release date, so look for it by the end of the year probably. So we'll have a new little horror short out. Follow us on Facebook at HiLa Productions. You can follow us on Instagram at Screen Bloody Movies. You can follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter. Follow Derek at DDoglyMaster. You can follow Lydia at Lydia is Spooky. And you can follow me at Racket, where you can get all my. Right now, I'm doing the 31 horror or the 31 film challenge, so you can see my takes on that, my hot James Bond takes, and my critiques of current horror films that I was excited about that didn't turn out too great. That's it.
Also, we are uploading episodes on Spotify and other platforms like that. You can listen to us without having to look at our ugly mugs.
If you want to do that, who doesn't want to look at this face and that beautiful face and Derek?
That's fair.
I thought you were going to say, and Lydia.
Yeah, I almost did. That gorgeous face, and then there's Lydia. I mean, look at that. Thanks for joining us, guys. Watch Halloween 3, which let me see where that is streaming. I
If
own
you
it.
don't own it.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course. I own all of the Halloween movies. So you can watch Halloween 3 on Peacock. You can watch it on Apple TV, Vudu, Amazon Prime, Redbox. You can rent it from YouTube or Google Play. So be sure to check that out. There's nothing else for Derek Lemaster and Lydia Judy. I am Jamie Hiles. And remember, if you're going to scream bloody movies. Good night, guys.